A very warm welcome to a talk on entrepreneurship. Amongst all the other talks on innovation, this one has a theme that entrepreneurship is not just a single spark, but it's a journey of customer focused sparks. And we have Mr. Parag Amin with us, who is the chief mentor and founding director of iCreate. iCreate is International Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology, and Mr. Parag is also principal of a technology company, Radical, in Philadelphia, USA. The president of a software product and services company specializing in gaming and digital television. And he was a co-founder and a board member of Vantage Point Bank in Pennsylvania. Parag sir has been instrumental in establishing India's first academic center for technical excellence at Nirma University, Gujarat. He is a highly committed mentor, leverages his ties with organizations like US India Business Council, US India Strategic Partnership Forum, Israel Innovation Authority, and Startup Nation Central for the benefit of Gujarat's entrepreneurial ecosystem through iCreate. So I welcome you, Parag sir, and have the stage open to you to take this discussion forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Patel, and thank you all for joining this talk. It's a Sunday evening. I'm sure you guys have better things to do, but I'll try to keep it entertaining and keep it focused and try to add some value to your journey of entrepreneurship or your pursuit of entrepreneurship, whichever way you're headed. So let me start. Take a couple of minutes, just tell you a little bit about myself. Then I'll take a few minutes and I'll talk about couple of traits that I've picked up along my journey, and then I'll talk about my product and my service and how I have been able to work with one of the largest companies in the world in what they do, and then keep offering them more and more solutions, and have been a chosen vendor of theirs for almost 25 years. And through that storytelling, what I want each one of you to kind of embrace is not so much the literality of my journey, but more so about pick up from it of what really needs to get done, and how do you implement that in your journey, right? Because each person's challenges and what you're trying to achieve and do is going to be very different as opposed to what I have done or what my journey is. But it'll absolutely be a guiding light for you to take a look at, and more importantly, for you to kind of figure out what not to do, and I'll focus a little bit on that as well. So I was born in Kenya. I came to India when I was 7 years old. I did my schooling here in Baroda, and I went to Baroda High School. And then after 12th, I went to the US and I studied computer science there. I did my bachelor's and my master's in computer science. And I went there on a student's visa. A company sponsored me, and I ended up staying in the US. I never came back. I've been in the US since 1985. And my claim to fame is I was one of 6 people that invented what you guys know today as Tata Sky. That technology is called direct-to-home satellite TV, DTH. And we were the inventors of, 6 of us were the inventors of direct-to-home satellite TV. And what that means is before us, there was no digital television that was being brought to your home using a small pizza-sized satellite dish. I was very young. I can't say that I innovated that. I was on a team that innovated that. And we won the 95 Emmy for invention of direct-to-home satellite TV. Emmy is to television what Grammy and Oscar are to music and movies. So I was in the right place at the right time. I was part of a great team. And my journey started from that. As a 25-year-old kid, I was holding an Emmy in my hand. The important part about that is there's a saying, if you want to walk far, you walk with others. But if you want to walk fast, you walk alone. So if you truly want to take your journey to the longevity of it and not so much just the nearsightedness and the speed, then you absolutely need to surround yourself with some very strong support system, because not everybody can be a CEO, CTO, CFO, CMO, CLO. You can't wear all the C hats all at once. So a team is what succeeds or makes an idea or a product succeed. So very valuable lesson. So that's my story. I started my company. I worked for this company called Prime Star that invented direct home satellite TV. We were young, we made some money, and we said we won't work for anybody else from this point on. And my business partner and I started my company called Radical. Now, before we get into Radical, I just want to lay the foundation of how we have succeeded and what has helped us get where we are. So I have this mantra that I'm very adamant about, that in every adversity lies innumerable number of opportunities. So if there are no problems, then there is absolutely no need for solutions. So if you want to become an entrepreneur, your calling card is going to be, I want to fix some problem, or I want to make something better, or I want to make something cheaper, or I want to make something more efficient. But each one of that is a problem statement. And if you don't look at adversity as a breeding ground for what you want to do, then your chances of succeeding as an entrepreneur diminish, because that's where the barrier to entry is very high. Because pick a problem that nobody else is addressing or very few are addressing, and then the marketplace is wide open. But if you try to make a toothbrush, then there are millions of other people that are making toothbrushes. So don't go make a toothbrush, right? Go do something else. And that something else can be found in a deeper problem set. So you have to have that mindset that if I see a problem, then I'm going to go and find a solution inside of that problem. So in adversity lies opportunity. So keep that at the forefront of your thought process as an entrepreneur. Second thing is, like I said, you want to grow as a team. You don't want to grow as an individual. So when you're starting a company, there are two ways of looking at it, right? The reason you want to be an entrepreneur is you're a capitalist in your thinking, in your thought process. My humble request to you is, be what we call a neural capitalist, but be an emotional socialist. Give that a thought of what I just said. Mentally be a capitalist, but emotionally be a socialist. And what that means is, think of Narayan Murthy. When he started Infosys, he made it a mission that he wanted to take minimum of 100 people along with him on that journey of Infosys and make them wealthy by world standards. So Infosys is one of the first companies in India that is responsible for creating more than 100 US dollar millionaires. Now, Murthy could have kept all that for himself, but he chose to share it as sweat equity in the company and took a lot of people along the journey with him. Because if you really think about it, India's biggest challenge today, and why every entrepreneur should have this at the forefront of their thought process, is India is adding 1 million youth to the workforce every month. And this phenomenon is going to go on for about 25 years. What that means is, every month, 1 million people are turning 25 or 27 or 30. Now, not only does India need to create jobs for these people, but if and when the jobs are created, these people become your customers. Whatever product or service you're trying to sell to them, they are your client base. So your client base is growing at that clip, at that pace. Are you going to be able to grow at that clip and that pace? And the only way they're going to become your clients is if you embrace them, empower them, and make them wealth creators as well. Then the ecosystem becomes self-professing, and that's a great engine at that point, right? There is a tremendous amount of joy in giving. There's a lot of joy in taking, but there is a tremendous amount of joy in giving. It's immeasurable. The satisfaction that comes out of giving is priceless. So while you take, always what we say is, if your left eye is focused to taking. And when each entrepreneur, that's what you are an entrepreneur for, because you want to make as much money as you can. Your left eye should always be focused on giving. How do I take, whether it is knowledge, whether it is power, whether it is a skill, whether it is wealth, whatever it is, how do I impart that on as many people as I can along the journey? So if you kind of take some of these jewels and make them an ethos or a core value of who you are as a person, and then you become an entrepreneur, you are headed to a pretty good land. So with that said, I want to keep an eye on the clock so I don't keep blabbering. Let's talk about what we are, what we have done, and how we have done it. We built a company that did what we call we built ERP, for a lack of a better term, for casinos. Casinos are gambling establishments where you can play cards, like you guys play Tinpatti, you can play poker, you can play blackjack. They have slot machines where you actually put a coin in a machine, you pull a handle, and you win or you lose. They also have table games like baccarat or roulette, or I'm sure a lot of you know about these games now. They're all on mobile devices. Way back when, there was a casino in the Bahamas, and the casino was built on a sand table. What that meant is, if you just kind of like put a chisel and a hammer to the floor, water will start coming out of there, because that whole island was kind of filled with water underneath. There was sand and then a building on top of that. So they did not have the ability to put Ethernet cables in the flooring so that they can connect all the slot machines. So they came to us and said, and I'm talking, this was back in 1989. There was no Wi-Fi back then. And they said, can you build us a technology that does not require us to lay the Ethernet cable, but we can still network our slot machines? So back then, the way you communicated or you got onto the internet was using what's called modems. They were connected to phone lines, and they were what we call ATDT modems. You sent control command sets to them, and then you would convert digital to analog and analog to digital, and that's how two computers would communicate with each other. So we said to ourselves, why don't we build a modem that actually works on a power line, on an electrical line, instead of a telephone line? And when electricity is basically a 50 or a 60 hertz cycle, it's a current that goes up and down and up and down. So when electricity goes down, you blast data at it on that same wire, and when it comes back up, you shut up. So your modem actually works in wave asynchronization to power, to electricity, and that's how basically each slot machine is plugged into a power outlet. And if you think about your house, every device in your house is plugged to your other device through the electrical wire. What they're getting is power, but when there's no power during the cycle, you can blast data, and now they're connected devices. So we built that technology way back then, patented it, we put it in the casino, it worked great, and it just so happened that this casino was owned by a cruise company called Carnival Cruise Lines. Then they came back to us and said, oh my God, this is amazing. Why can't we put this on our ships? Because we have the same problem. Our ships are all made out of steel. The flooring is all steel, and we can't lay the Ethernet wire there. So we said, fine. We went ahead and put this solution onto a ship. What most of us don't realize, including us back then, is that in your house, you have live, you have neutral, and you have ground as three wires that provide electricity to your house. The ground actually is tapped directly into the ground. So if there's ever a power leakage or power surge, that power directly goes into the ground, and it doesn't circulate into the system, creating interference. On a ship, there is no ground. It's a floating ship. But there is still a ground, but it's not a ground. What they do is they create a little sand pit with conductors, and then the ground wire goes into that. And then that extra charged electricity that goes in just goes in there, but it's not like a true ground. It's still a noisy environment. So if the housekeeping folks would plug in a vacuum machine suddenly all our data communications would go haywire. The reason I'm telling you this story is in adversity lies opportunity, right? So we said, oh my God, we didn't have this issue on land, but we have this issue on the ship. Now there is no true ground. What do you do? So we found a solution to kind of filter out that noise that when somebody turns on the vacuum machine gets pumped into the whole electrical ecosystem. Started working like a champ on the ship. Then came the days of Wi-Fi. It's like, oh, now your electrical communication speed is not good enough for transporting video. So why don't we switch to Wi-Fi? Great, awesome. I just told you a few seconds ago, ships are made out of steel. Your houses are made out of wood and concrete and pretty much open space. And you still have Wi-Fi issues from one room to the other. Try to get Wi-Fi across a steel wall. Wi-Fi doesn't work on a ship unless you put 1 million repeaters. Then it's not cost effective. So what do? Well, what we said, fine. So we will carry the video from wherever it needs to be to wherever it needs to go to using Wi-Fi. And once we brought it where we needed to have it, and then we couldn't push it any further because of the steel walls, steel cages, we would then put it onto our electrical network by cutting it into small slices and small dices, and then buffering it, because the end user doesn't really know when my talk started, whether it started at 5 or it starts at 5:04. If I have 4 minutes worth of content that I compress up front, and then I started as a live stream, and then still keep backpacking the 4 minutes of content, the viewer will never think that they're not watching a live stream. It's just that it's 4 minutes delayed. I'm talking about all this stuff in the early 2000s, right? So each time we get thrown a hurdle, we find a solution, and we make the whole product and the ecosystem better and better. Long and short of the story is, Carnival Cruise Lines, they operate 9 brands: Cunard, Windstar, Holland America, Seabourn, Princess, Costa, Sun, Aida, and Carnival. They control 62% of the world's cruising market. And at one point, they had 106 ships. Every ship ran using our platform and our technology. And it still is. For the last 25 years, it's still running. Let's fast forward to now, where we are in this world of COVID. The whole cruise industry has completely shut down. The last cruise ship sailed in the second week of March 2020. And not a single ship has sailed since then. These ships are humongous. They're cities. There are 5,000, 6,000 people that live on it all day, every day. They eat there, they entertain there, they sleep there, everything. Right now, 300 people run a ship, a skeleton crew, and it's still costing them $500 million a month while they're not bringing any revenue in. They're still spending money because the lights have to stay on these ships. So we looked at it and said, all these ships have to come back to service someday, sometime. So why don't we kind of put technologies in place that will allow the cruise operators to operate in a much safer environment? And safety in today's day and age comprises of 4 things: 6 feet of distance, social distancing, washing your hands frequently, wearing a mask, keeping yourself away from somebody else that may be sick. So we went ahead and built all these technologies on top of our product that kind of made these ships COVID ready. So I'll give you examples. What we've done is we've kind of built a bracelet. The bracelet is self-powered. It has BLE in it. It has NFC in it. It has an oscilloscope in it. And it has a gyroscope in it. And to you, it looks like a 5 rupee coin. That's what it looks to you like. And you can wear it as a necklace. You can wear it as a clip on your pants. You can wear it as a watch. You can put it in your pocket. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't need to be charged. It has about 60 days of battery life. And it just constantly keeps running like a computer that never stops. Now, here is where, again, looking for an opportunity in an adversity comes right to the forefront. When I took this idea to the chief technology officer of a $50 billion company, that's what Carnival Cruise Lines is, he said to me, instinct, like immediate reaction, my cell phone can do that. Why do I need all this? And then I say to him, you can leave your cell phone behind. You can turn off Bluetooth on your cell phone. Your cell phone's battery can die. Now, the solution I'm talking about is contact tracing. What the medallion that we have built, you can Google it. The project is called Project Ocean, like OCEAN, and the product is called Medallion, MEDALLION, Medallion. If you Google it, there's enough information about it. What our product does is it is your room key, it is your credit card, it is your passport. You can't leave the ship or get onto the ship without it. You don't need to take your passport to get off or get on. You don't need to have a room key because it has BLE, that's a key. As soon as you walk in front of your door, it automatically opens your door. You don't even have to touch it. You walk up to a bar, your picture comes up on the point of sale system, and the bartender says, Mr. Amin, what would you like to drink? And I order my drink, and he just touches my face on his tablet, and the order gets charged to my account. So I can be 6 feet away. I'm doing complete electronic commerce. By the way, there's not a single solution in the world today that is live and running, not a prototype, it's a fully functional deployed product that is payment using Bluetooth. You have payment using NFC, but there is no payment using Bluetooth. We're the first solution. We're already running since March of last year, right? So now this is your credit card. You can't live without it. It's your room key. You can't live without it. It's your passport. You have to have it. Now you get off the ship. You're with another cruise ship passenger who you don't know, and you both are on a horseback riding expedition. And you're within 4 feet of each other for 15 minutes. Your two horses are riding next to each other. We go back to the ship, and I test positive for COVID. Immediately, the doctor knows who were the people that were within 6 feet of me for more than 5 minutes. And then he or she calls every one of those patients back into the medical facility and tests them for COVID. Now, these solutions don't exist. We're thinking of them. We're making them up as we go along. And when we're building them, we're saying it with utmost authority and confidence that nobody else has this and nobody else will have it for quite a long time. So the first thought was, should we go and patent this? And we said, nope, we don't want to waste time patenting, protecting this. We just want the first to market advantage. The minute the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, saw this, they made this a requirement for every cruise that is going to sail out of America. It needs a solution like this. It doesn't have to be mine. It can be somebody else's, but a self-powered, non-cell phone based, Bluetooth based contact tracing system. So there you go. When you talk about how does an entrepreneur succeed, an entrepreneur keeps looking to better their product proposition, their service proposition inside of the space that they're operating in with the customers whose trust they've already established. And the quicker you can pivot and the quicker you can produce solutions that are useful to the marketplace, the better your chances of succeeding as an entrepreneur. Majority of the entrepreneurs fail, not because their product or service or innovation is not creative, but it's either not a necessity to the tunes of what they think it is, or it's too expensive for the masses to absorb. So a product market fit is the number one thing that an entrepreneur needs to focus on. What better product market fit than your customer showing you and telling you what their problems are, rather than you going and building something in the hope with a prayer that it succeeds or you're able to sell that product or service. It's far more important to chase a known problem that's right in front of you than try to imagine a problem because it's your problem, assuming that it's everybody else's problem, and then trying to solve that. So I'll tell you, 20% of things trip 80% of people. If there is a little concrete block on a step to a temple that's kind of like protruding up, majority of the people that trip or fall are going to fall because of that little protrusion that's up there. It's that 80-20 rule. 20% of the things trip 80% of entrepreneurs. So it's very important that you are always on the lookout for what not to do, rather than just chase what to do. And that what not to do might be the product or service that you're trying to build. And if you chase that, you will fail. And there's nothing wrong in failing, as long as you use that as a stepping stone for your next success. But that idea or product will fail. Right? So with that, I think that's about half an hour in. I want to open it up for questions, about 15 minutes we have. I want to make this interactive. Any amount of questions you have, anything in specific, please go ahead. Time's yours. And thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Parag sir. That was quite a wonderful insight and a power-packed, 30 minutes for the young entrepreneurs. After going through the journey, specifically your entrepreneurship journey, and specifically for the lesson that you have shared, that always find an opportunity in the adversity. I'm sure it will help a lot of us. So yeah, I'll just check other platforms where people are viewing this broadcast and see for the questions. Meanwhile, if anyone from here would like to continue the discussion with Parag sir.
Parag sir, I have a question.
Call me Parag. No sir business. This Parag's good. Please call me Parag.
Sure. Parag, one question is this. We have been discussing about innovation in the last 2 days, and we all talk about innovators becoming entrepreneurs because they ultimately will have to sell it. I wish to have the thread of thought that if an entrepreneur who has started something which is maybe not innovative, something routine, nevertheless an entrepreneur, how does such an entrepreneur caught up in the world of routine things jump onto the innovation bandwagon?
So an entrepreneur doesn't have to innovate, right? An entrepreneur's sole goal is to succeed at the line of business that they're trying to achieve. So I'll give you a very good example. I'm sure all of you know Harsh Mariwala. You heard the name Harsh Mariwala. Marico. He's the chairman of Marico, right? Harsh is a dear friend and he's an advisor on iCreate's board. So if you look at Marico, one of their product that they're known for is the Parachute coconut oil. Right? Now, this is Brill cream for the poor. The poorest of the poor use the Parachute coconut oil for their hair treatment. I don't use it because I don't need it, but there are a lot of people that use it, that need it. Hershey's son studied in the US. He came back and he told his dad that I want to kind of do something with our product, and his dad wouldn't let him do it, saying, you know how long it's taken me to get the Parachute product brand to what it is? I'm not letting you touch it. That is who we are. That blue bottle is how people know Marico. That's how we're known. Then all his friends say to him, is like, Harsh, your son went to the US, he's educated, you paid for his education. Let him do what he wants. If he fails, revert back to what you want to do, but let him do what he wants. The only thing his son did is repackaged that oil into a 1 rupee sachet. Their sales went up multiples. Because if an Adivasi woman is using that as a brill cream, that 60 rupee bottle was a stiff spend for her. But that 1 rupee spend became discretionary. In my opinion, Hershey's son is just as much of an entrepreneur as Hershey's, or even better. Because for practically nothing, he took the sales up multifold. So you tell me who the better entrepreneur is, the guy that innovated or the guy that repackaged?
So the purpose of innovation is to reach to the maximum number of people. All right. And that is why
you can call innovation whatever you want, right? Going to the moon is innovation. How many people will pay you today to go to the moon? How many people will be able to afford it? I mean, Elon Musk can do it because he's got discretionary money. It's his hobby. I'm a pilot, I fly. That's my hobby. Is it economical to fly yourself? The answer is no. But I fly myself because it's my hobby. He'll go to the moon and he'll take 4 of his buddies that can afford it, but it's not a viable business right now. So don't go and build a vehicle that takes you to moon. Don't innovate along those lines. Try to put a battery in a bicycle that will last for 6 months. I will give you a classic example. Lately, I'm 54. I never used to forget things. After 50, I started forgetting things. I've left on this journey from US to here, I left a guitar on a plane and I left my cell phone at duty free. Inside of 10 hours, I forgot 2 things. So I've accepted the fact that a type A like myself, who's got millions of other things going in his head, these things are irrelevant and I leave them behind. It's okay. And then I chase them and I go get them back. So I just bought this Bluetooth little credit card that is solar powered, never has to be charged. And it connects to my phone. And if my wallet goes within 30 feet from my phone, it beeps and my phone beeps. And same thing with my phone. If my phone goes 30 feet from my wallet starts beeping, telling me, "You're an idiot. You left your phone somewhere." Matter of fact, it has a button. I can press that button on my little credit card and my phone will ring even it is in do not disturb mode or volume is all the way low. So I think it's a brilliant innovation. Now, the audience here might not think that it's useful because I didn't think it was useful 4 years ago. But today it's my lifeline. Because I'm dead without my phone.
Suresh sir would like to ask a question. Suresh,
Sure.
please.
My question is more of a little larger level. You have been seeing the innovation scenario in India, US, and across the globe also. What we have observed in the last 5 years, India has innovation, startup, entrepreneurship are more emerging. So how would you say from outside India, and how India is playing, and is it really taking shape? Is it really going in the right direction? And the event like Makerface, how much value addition does it adds to?
So it's a great question. And Madhubhai, Dr. Madhu Mehta, myself, Professor Jaju, 6 of us are firm believers that there is a tremendous amount of entrepreneurial zeal in Indians. And we saw this 15 years ago. So Madhubhai and I, along with a bunch of other people, Sunil Parag, we all wrote Gujarat's IT policy. Collectively, as part of CII, we wrote Gujarat's IT policy. We all have our hands dirty in Gujarat's innovation policy. We all have our hands dirty in Gujarat's entrepreneurial policy. Matter of fact, Narendra Bhai has adopted a lot of what I create sold itself as in Startup India. If you look at the Startup India policy document, a lot of it is what I created. Because that is where he heard first of what all should be done to promote entrepreneurship. And that's why we are the founders of that institution, because we're believers in it. I have said from day one that India as a culture is a herd mindset culture. I individually might not think that I can become an entrepreneur, or my parents might not think that I can become an entrepreneur, or my teachers might not think I can become an entrepreneur. But if my classmate who was getting 65 marks and I was getting 85 marks, and she became an entrepreneur, then it's like, Arey yaar, if she can do it, I can do it. But on my freestanding will and desire, I didn't have the inert ability to say, I'm an entrepreneur, I can do it. So how do we capitalize on that herd mindset is number one. And not only just from an entrepreneur's perspective, but even from the parent's perspective. A Gujarati parent is a lot more favorable in terms of their kid going and becoming an entrepreneur than maybe somebody from West Bengal or somebody from Tamil Nadu. It's just how it is. I'm not compartmentalizing. I'm just saying those are facts, is indisputable facts. So how do we kind of neutralize all that stuff? And I am of the opinion personally that this generation already embraces that, because they are not parent driven, they are not teacher driven, they're peer driven. Ubers of the world operate because of their peer power. It's not because we take Uber. So we have this whole generation that's very ripe and hungry and ambitious and motivated. We just have to facilitate things for them. And that's what we've been telling Narendra Bhai from day one, that the government should not be getting into the business of entrepreneurship. They should be getting into the business of facilitation of entrepreneurship by virtues of funding entrepreneurs, providing them technologies, providing them institutions, providing them sandboxes, providing them problems. If a government comes to you and says, I have a problem, I need you to help me solve it, then that entrepreneur is not chasing a pipe dream. We had Gujarat Mineral Development Corporation, who's half our partner, basically say that they have mines that they lease out. And then those mines, people, whoever are leasing it, they pay the government money on the tonnage of dirt that they extract out of it. And whatever they get out of it is theirs to keep, but the tonnage of what they pull out of the hole is what they pay the government on. So these guys cheat. Every one of them cheats. If they pull out 5 metric tons, they say, I've only pulled out 1 metric ton. Nobody goes and measures it. So one of our entrepreneurs at iCreate, he built a drone with a high resolution camera that does volumetric analysis, both of the hole and the pile. So the hole got deeper, but the pile calculation stayed the same. Oh yeah, I only extracted 5 tons. No, you didn't. You extracted 10 tons because the hole got bigger by 10. Right? So the point I'm trying to make is we facilitated the entrepreneur with every tool he needed in order to build this solution. And now that solution exists. And it can be used for any volumetric analysis. So the long-winded answer is, I see India's entrepreneurial journey just starting, and Israel believes in us. US believes in us. And that's why there is so much foreign direct investment coming into India. They are not investing in textile mills. Right? So we're just getting started. We're at the early stages of a blowout. And I think another 10 years will be a true telltale for India. And I think India will be at the leading edge of entrepreneurship and innovation. I think I just saw online somebody has a question. Moksha, I think,
yes.
was it?
Yes. Moksha
I think HT sir wants to ask first. Or can I go ahead?
I'm good
Folks,
either way. Go ahead.
folks, you can start.
Parag, this was, amazing talk. I'm an entrepreneur, so I could relate to a lot of things you were saying, and yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. So one specific thing which I wanted to ask and which keeps me awake every night is I am into generic pharmaceutical industry. We manufacture generic drugs, and the question which I ask myself is, we are not doing anything different. The only thing where you might be able to do something different is cost, and that's about it, or it's about execution and nothing else probably, because the innovator or the innovation is already happened. So in this, how do you and it has turned out to be uh, a big boys game over a period of time. So in this, how do you identify, or how do you create your niche, or how do you go about finding a space for yourself whereby you are able to do something different or create your mark?
So again, I by no means am I an expert of your domain, right? So I will try to kind of just use relational analytics to kind of answer your question. Every entrepreneur, and I'll say this about India. One thing that we can better ourselves, and whether you are Zydus or whether you're Alembic, doesn't really matter, or whether it's you making generics. Um, Quality is something you didn't mention. You only mentioned price. So if you can identify yourself as being a niche player, not a single capsule or tablet of mine will come back. And that's a guarantee I'm giving you as a small, because your processes and your control systems can be a lot more tightly enforced than somebody the size of Cadila or somebody the size of Alembic. It's just like saying controlling a manpower of 8 people is a lot easier than controlling a manpower of 800,000 people, right? So one differentiator could be quality. In the generic space, what every other person does is says, Viagra is coming off patent. So
Correct.
everybody wants to go and start manufacturing Viagra.
Right.
This drug is coming off patent. So everybody was that you. So if that's the game you want to be in, fine. But you have to know that your business card is dated. The window of opportunity is very tight. And then that's the game you're playing. You have to know that that's the game you're playing. Then you'll have to go after the next drug.
Right.
And the following drug, and the following drug. Or I'm going to make aspirin, which is being made for 100 years now.
GGs, correct.
And the market demand for that has not tapered in the last 100 years. It just keeps going higher. But I want to become the aspirin provider to South America. And
Right.
that's your niche.
Understood.
So capture a marketplace and then cater to that like nobody else can.
Right.
And that becomes your USP, whatever that is, right? I mean, some way, somehow you have to kind of find that within the domain of what your product lines are. But I don't know. I don't know if you have heard of Sudeep Pharma.
I've heard the name. I've never interacted.
So you can go and Google it. Sudeep Pharma is run by my brother-in-law. That's my mama's daughter. Sujit, when he started his company, all his family members gave him money. Now there's a German partner that bought 50% of him out for like $60 million or something like that. Local Baroda guy studied here in Baroda High School and
Correct.
started the company, went to the US, studied chemical engineering and came back. He is into one and only one product, DCB or whatever you call it. I don't know what that means, but it's something that is used in cattle feed and in binding every single medication. No matter what you make, you need his agent.
Right.
It doesn't matter what drug it is, but you need his agent.
Correct.
And he's one of the largest manufacturers of that in the country. But that's the niche that he chose.
Got it.
He's not going. So, for example, let's say you start manufacturing the glue for the capsules. Don't worry about the capsule. Don't worry about the content that goes inside the capsule. Become the glue that sticks the two capsules together And that's your forte.
Understood.
Because there are a lot less people doing that.
Right.
And there are a lot more people making Viagra.
Correct. Got it. Thanks, Parag.
Yeah, I will go ahead with my question. Like, you sounded very, very optimistic in saying that the India, the people, I mean, like, US believes in India now, and you talked about two things: innovation and entrepreneurship. My question is, I see a huge gap today between what the technology is there in US versus what we have here. Now, and how do you really bridge this gap? And the kind of investment that takes place in terms of, and there are investments which are long-term investment that a lot of people, I mean, a lot of large companies are doing. And therefore, let's say if we talk about this optimistic scenario with this kind of a gap, how do we bridge it, or how is it possible to bridge it?
So today, Mr. Patel, if you go to Silicon Valley and you go to any venture fund to get venture financing, if you don't have an Indian on your team, the chances are you're not going to get money. So what makes it that Silicon Valley companies are worthless without an Indian? Today, you go and ask any venture capitalist. If you're just a bunch of Polish guys, you're not going to get any money. I guarantee you that. So it is a proven fact that the head of Microsoft happens to be an Indian, that the head of Google happens to be an Indian, that the head of MasterCard happens to be an Indian. It's not a coincidence. Head of Pepsi was an Indian. So we really can't say that India doesn't have it. India has it. India has it world over. India has it here as well. The challenge that we have here you and I are operating at the grassroots level. We're not Bangalore, we're not Pune, we're not Hyderabad, we're not Mumbai, we're not Delhi. So what we see is not what they see. That's number one. But same thing, there are companies in Ohio. There are companies in Western Pennsylvania. There are companies in upstate New York. There are not Research Triangle or Silicon Valley companies. But it's not a beehive either, like it is in Silicon Valley or in the Research Triangle or in the New England corridor. So the point is, how do we enable these? And Anupam Jalote will tell you. I exited a venture this year. We had put 10,000 rupees into that company. And then we had loaned them some 2-3 lakh rupees against equity. I think it's 4.5 years, if I'm not wrong. If Madhubhai is on the call, he can correct me. We walked away with a 4.5 crore rupee liquidation of our stocks. A US company came in and invested millions of dollars into this company. Now, he's not the only one. iCreate has 4 or 5 such companies in our pocket right now, where we have gotten that kind of return. I did personally, one vote on the board. I did not want to exit this venture. But the government wanted a hard fact that they can tout and claim publicly. That we put X and we got Y in Z number of years. So the potential is there. We're setting up a fintech incubator with GIFT now. I think there's tremendous potential for that. If you build I challenge one of your makers that's part of this program. Each one of you today goes to an ATM to withdraw money. First of all, you don't know if that ATM has money. Second of all, you don't know how much money it's going to give you. Third of all, you don't know what denominations it has. What if you build a system, an app that tells you that? Because all that information the banks have. Would that not be great? Then me going from ATM to ATM to ATM to withdraw 2,000 rupees. But today, people are not seeing that. as a waste of time. They see that as a way of life. When that way of life becomes a waste of time, when productivity is valued, suddenly that becomes something people are willing to pay for. If I had to pay a rupee a month or a rupee a day to figure out where I should go for my ATM and not have to worry, same thing applies to parking, same thing applies to any other service that you want. When should I go to pay my electricity bill? What if the app told me right now there is no line? The value of time is not at par with Western nations. Once that hits at par, all these services start becoming necessities. They are not nice to haves. And we're there, we're getting there. I hope that answers your question. I mean, I'm not saying we're there today. I'm saying 1 million youth being added to the workforce is a marketplace that nobody in the world has. No matter what your product or service, nobody in the world has a buying power growth of 1 million a month anywhere in the world but here. Nowhere.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Reflecting upon the last part of what you said regarding the value of time, कल अनिल गुप्ता जी ने भी यही बोला था कि हमें प्रॉब्लम्स दिखती है बट दुखती नहीं है.
Exactly.
This is what he referred to.
But it's look, I laugh at America when they say to me that this building is 350 years old. I'm almost tempted to say I have 10 of those in my village that we don't even look at. But that's their history. So they don't have baggage that we have. And it's baggage because culturally we have accepted these things, and then today's day and age, they're baggage. But it's going to take a generation to say it's not, it's a baggage. It's not a way of life. And it's not my generation. It's this generation that's listening to us. They're the ones that are going to make it happen.
True, sir. Kamlesh Udani uncle would like to ask a question. Kamlesh uncle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Parag, really fascinating to listen to you. We have a common friend, Sunil Parag.
Yeah.
So I will be very happy to connect to you soon, whenever possible. My question to you is that you and other friends are writing policy for the government on the startups and culture creation for innovation. Do you have more suggestion on educational system that India has? Because what we believe that our education system kills the creativity.
Well, the first thing I would do if I was elected, which I won't be because I'm not an Indian national, not born here. But if I was in this prime ministerial seat or even HRD minister, I would get rid of AICT.
Right.
You don't need regulations to impart education. You just need to educate. Because today, a child can get more knowledge from YouTube than any university can provide them that knowledge. So what are you regulating? You're not regulating YouTube. What is AICT regulating?
Right. Bureaucratic.
It absolutely cannot regulate knowledge. It absolutely cannot regulate delivery mechanisms of knowledge. Then why are they the ones saying what the course name should be and what the course content should be and who should have written the book and how frequently can you change it?
Right.
So the impediment to the academic system in this country is not the teachers, it's not the students, it's not the books. It's the freaking regulatory hurdle that is wrapped around the whole system.
Right.
What is in today's day and age, which developed country you can have accreditation agencies, that's okay. But you don't have regulatory agencies that controls academics.
Correct. Very true. Recently, you might have heard that one of the Maharashtra village teacher developed QR code, which every student can, use mobile and get to the YouTube connections or website connection and learn about, say, if it is Shivaji's photo or Parag's photo, just QR code, you look at it from mobile and which has changed probably the educational books, textbooks in Maharashtra. And similar things should happen across the country.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. First thing I would do is abolish AICT.
Okay.
And I'm speaking from the technical side. AICT might not be an issue with law school or medical school. I don't know. But from a computer science perspective and science fields, I know they're an impediment.
Right. And do you think that a good innovator can be a good entrepreneur also, or it's a rare combination?
Mutually exclusive, in my opinion. I mean, you can be an entrepreneur. I gave you a classic example, like Hershey's son, right? He didn't invent Coprel. He just repackaged Coprel. Sales went up fourfolds.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
So if we don't have any question, then we should proceed to VOT. Right. Thank you so much, Parag sir. It was a fantastic session. And there are two things which I would like to reflect upon. You said mentally be capitalist, but then you said that there is a tremendous joy of giving back to the society. And one more thing was always prioritize what not to do. And then, the effectivity or the involvement in the important stuff will be the exclusive. And, we will not waste time and focus on the things that we need to do. Thank you so much, sir. It was a delightful session and an insightful one. And, thank you so much for sparing your 1 hour with us. We are very delighted. Thank you so much.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you for listening and thank you for having me, Mr. Patel. I really appreciate it. Madhubhai, if you're listening, thank you. And good luck to all your entrepreneurs and your guys in your Maker Challenge. I hope things work out for you. And if I personally could be of any help to any of you, please reach out. You can publish my email address if you want. And I will put a little asterisk next to that offer. You try to get in touch with me once, twice, I don't respond. The ball is in your court. Please reach out third time. I am a human. I have a conscience. I will feel guilty and I will respond. But if I'm in the middle of my problems, your problems are tertiary to me and I won't focus on them. So make your problems my problems and then I'll engage. So don't give up. As an entrepreneur, always be hungry and don't give up. Chase something.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Parag. I also appreciate. I just want to say this, just to say that I was listening to you all throughout.
That makes me feel better now, Madhubhai.
and since your numbers were right about iCreate, I didn't have to butt in.
So 50 years preserved that. I've not lost that yet. So numbers I'm still okay with. Is that stupid cell phone I keep losing?
Okay, Patel Sahib, over to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We'll be moving on to the next session. So I think maybe abruptly, we would have wanted to, let's say, continue with the question answer session longer with the kind of practical inputs that they have been giving. But I think it's an announced program, the way to function, and therefore Amin had to, let's say, let's go ahead and with this session, finish it and go to the next session. So thank you very much from my side also, Parag bhai, and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.